Tonight, allow your breathing to slow as we wander into the peaceful sanctuaries of ancient Greece. Close your eyes and imagine quiet marble temples, gentle evening breezes, and the calm footsteps of those seeking comfort rather than adventure. Together we will follow the serene story of Asclepius, the gentle god of healing, discovering tranquil places where patience, rest, and hope quietly shaped everyday life beneath the stars. In the gentle rhythm of ancient Greek tradition, the story of Asclepius begins not with conquest or celebration, but with quiet destiny. He would become the god most closely associated with healing, careful observation, and the patient restoration of balance. His earliest days were remembered as part of a larger pattern woven by the gods, where every life carried a place within the natural order. Long before temples welcomed those seeking peaceful sleep, the foundations of his story rested in calm valleys, sacred mountains, and the enduring belief that wisdom often arrived softly, carried on silence rather than triumph. His father was Apollo, radiant god of light, music, prophecy, and healing arts. Although Apollo's presence often shone brightly across myth, this chapter unfolds with unusual stillness. His affection for the mortal woman Coronis became part of a story remembered for its sorrow as much as its hope. Even within moments of loss, Greek mythology often allowed gentle beginnings to emerge, suggesting that renewal could quietly follow grief without erasing what came before. Coronis was remembered as a princess from Thessaly, living beneath familiar skies and among rolling hills that changed gently with the seasons. Ancient storytellers described her life as part of the human world, where ordinary landscapes touched the unseen presence of the divine. Her place in the tradition remained peaceful, connected to rivers, forests, and the steady movement of time. Through her, the future healer would inherit both divine ancestry and mortal understanding, a balance that shaped every part of his later story. When tragedy entered the tale, it did so with quiet inevitability rather than dramatic spectacle. Ancient versions differ in their details, yet they agree that Apollo's grief became profound. From this sadness came the decision that preserved the unborn child. Asclepius entered the world through divine intervention, not as a symbol of victory, but as a gentle continuation of life. Even in loss, the myths allowed compassion to remain present, carried carefully from one generation into the next. The infant Asclepius was entrusted to wise care instead of royal comfort. His earliest path led away from crowded cities and toward quiet mountains where knowledge could grow patiently. Greek mythology often placed remarkable children within peaceful natural landscapes, allowing forests, caves, and high slopes to become silent classrooms. Here, the sounds of birds, flowing streams, and gentle winds formed a fitting beginning for one who would someday bring relief instead of conflict. The wise centaur Chiron became the child's teacher. Unlike many creatures described in heroic tales, Chiron was known for kindness, discipline, and thoughtful instruction. His home upon Mount Pelion was remembered as a place where learning unfolded with patience rather than urgency. Under his guidance, young Asclepius encountered the careful study of herbs, the observation of nature, and the quiet responsibility carried by anyone who sought to ease another person's suffering. The forests surrounding Mount Pelion offered countless lessons. Every tree, flowering plant, and spring became part of an enduring conversation between nature and careful attention. Healing in the ancient Greek imagination was never entirely separate from the landscape itself. Those who understood plants also learned to respect seasons, weather, and the slow rhythms through which life renewed itself. Asclepius grew within this atmosphere of observation, where wisdom accumulated gradually instead of arriving all at once. As his understanding deepened, Asclepius learned that healing required more than knowledge alone. Compassion, patience, and careful listening became equally valuable. Ancient storytellers remembered him as someone who approached suffering without haste, allowing each remedy to follow the natural pace of recovery. This gentle approach would later define the sanctuaries dedicated to him, where quiet surroundings encouraged both body and spirit to rest before strength slowly returned. The serpent gradually became associated with Asclepius, not as a fearful creature, but as a symbol of renewal. Because snakes shed their skin, they represented continual restoration and the quiet cycle of life beginning again. This symbolism would eventually appear beside the healer's staff, becoming one of the most enduring images connected with medicine. In the oldest traditions, the serpent reflected nature's calm ability to change without haste, guided by rhythms older than memory. The child who had entered the world through sorrow slowly became known for preserving life wherever possible. Stories of his growing abilities spread gently through the Greek world, carried by travelers and poets rather than armies. His reputation rested upon careful practice and quiet dedication. Unlike many mythical figures celebrated for strength or speed, Asclepius earned lasting honor through steady service, offering hope that healing could become an expression of wisdom rather than power. The early life of Asclepius remained closely connected to the natural harmony surrounding Mount Pelion. The mountain itself became almost a silent companion in his education. Its changing light, cool streams, and distant horizons reflected the balance that Greek thinkers often admired. Learning unfolded without urgency, reminding later generations that genuine understanding grows through repeated observation, quiet reflection, and respectful attention to the living world. Many generations later, those who visited healing sanctuaries remembered these peaceful beginnings. They believed the God who watched over their rest had first learned from nature itself. This memory encouraged visitors to slow their pace, breathe the fresh air of sacred places, and trust that recovery often moved gently. The earliest chapters of his life continued to shape every quiet temple dedicated in his honor across the Greek landscape. Unlike stories centered on endless battles, the birth of Asclepius quietly pointed toward restoration. His life suggested that knowledge could protect instead of destroy, and that careful attention might become a sacred offering. These ideas resonated deeply throughout ancient Greece, where healing blended practical skill with reverence for divine order. The calm beginning of his story reflected the peaceful purpose that would remain with him throughout every tradition that followed. As the first pages of his myth gently close, the image that remains is one of serenity rather than grandeur. A child preserved through compassion, raised among mountains, guided by wisdom, and surrounded by the quiet language of nature, would one day become the guardian of sacred healing. His beginning invites the mind toward stillness, where gentle landscapes, patient learning, and the promise of renewal rest together beneath the timeless skies of ancient Greece. Asclepius spent his early years quietly observing the rhythms of the natural world. Gentle hills, flowing springs, and shaded groves became his first teachers. Ancient tradition remembers him as the son of Apollo, who guided him toward knowledge rather than glory. Healing was never hurried. It began by noticing the slow patterns that united plants, animals, seasons, and human life. Every herb carried its own character, every stream its own purity, and every sunrise another opportunity to understand balance. In these peaceful surroundings, wisdom grew gradually, like an olive tree adding another quiet ring beneath its bark. Apollo entrusted much of Asclepius' education to the wise centaur Chiron, whose cave rested among tranquil mountain slopes. Unlike stories of battle or conquest, This learning unfolded with patience and careful attention. Chiron taught the names of medicinal plants, the comforting qualities of cool water, and the importance of listening before acting. Knowledge was offered gently, one lesson after another, allowing understanding to settle naturally. Each day became part of a quiet tradition where skill was joined with kindness, and wisdom was measured not by speed but by steady care. Among the forests, Asclepius learned to recognize leaves by their fragrance, roots by their texture, and flowers by the season in which they quietly appeared. Ancient Greek healing relied upon close observation of nature, and each walk became another page in an unwritten book. No plant was gathered carelessly. Every remedy reflected respect for the earth that produced it. The calm discipline of identifying herbs encouraged patience, humility, and gratitude. Over many seasons, these peaceful routines shaped a healer whose greatest strength was careful attention rather than remarkable display. Water also became an important companion in the gentle practice of healing. Fresh springs were valued for their purity, while bathing offered comfort and renewal to both body and spirit. Flowing streams reminded Asclepius that health often returned gradually, much like water finding its course through stone. Ancient sanctuaries would later be built near natural springs for this very reason. The quiet movement of water encouraged reflection, inviting those who sought healing to slow their thoughts and rest within the steady rhythm of the natural world. Asclepius came to understand that healing was more than preparing medicines. It included gentle conversation, peaceful surroundings, nourishing food, restful sleep, and hopeful thoughts. Ancient Greek traditions often viewed health as harmony rather than simple recovery from illness. Balance connected the body, the mind, and the sacred order of nature itself. This understanding encouraged a calm approach where every small improvement held meaning. Quiet days, fresh air, and thoughtful care became part of the same healing path, woven together with patience instead of urgency. The sacred serpent gradually became associated with Asclepius, not as a fearful creature, but as a symbol of renewal. By shedding its skin, the serpent reflected the quiet possibility of restoration and new beginnings. Ancient visitors to healing sanctuaries often accepted its presence as part of the sacred environment. The image remained gentle rather than threatening, reminding people that change could arrive naturally over time. Wrapped around the healer's staff, the serpent expressed steady wisdom, patient growth, and enduring hope through simple symbolism instead of dramatic display. As experience deepened, Asclepius learned that careful observation often revealed more than quick judgment. A person's breathing, posture, voice, and quiet expressions all became part of understanding their condition. Ancient healing valued attentive presence alongside practical knowledge. Remaining calm allowed subtle details to emerge naturally. Rather than rushing toward answers, the healer allowed time for careful reflection. This deliberate pace created an atmosphere of reassurance, where those seeking comfort could feel supported by thoughtful attention and gentle confidence. Stories of Asclepius gradually spread across Greece, carried by travelers who spoke of remarkable kindness, joined with uncommon skill. Yet the traditions surrounding him emphasized compassion as much as knowledge. Healing was understood as a gift that served communities rather than personal ambition. Every remedy reflected an intention to restore harmony and reduce suffering. This reputation grew slowly, shaped by countless quiet acts of care instead of dramatic triumphs. In this way, his name became associated with calm reassurance throughout the Greek world. Dreams also held a peaceful place within the traditions connected to Asclepius. Ancient Greeks often believed that restful sleep could invite guidance from the divine, especially within sacred spaces devoted to healing. Quiet preparation, clean surroundings, and calm reflection were considered important before sleep. Rather than separating body and spirit, these customs brought both together within a single gentle practice. Rest itself became part of recovery, offering space where hope and renewal could quietly take root through the stillness of the night. Asclepius came to appreciate that every person followed a different path toward wellness. What restored one individual might not suit another. Ancient healing therefore encouraged thoughtful attention to each unique circumstance. This careful approach required humility, because complete understanding was never assumed. Nature itself displayed endless variety, and human lives reflected the same quiet diversity. Accepting these differences encouraged patience, allowing treatment to unfold according to the needs of each individual rather than fixed expectation. The peaceful discipline of healing gradually shaped Asclepius himself. Knowledge did not separate him from nature, but drew him closer to its steady rhythms. Every season offered fresh lessons about growth, rest, and renewal. Winter encouraged stillness, spring suggested recovery, summer brought abundance, and autumn reminded every living thing to release what had completed its purpose. Observing these quiet cycles deepened both wisdom and compassion, creating a healer whose understanding reflected the calm order of the natural world. Simple tools accompanied the healer's work. A wooden staff supported long journeys across rugged landscapes, while carefully prepared remedies reflected many hours of patient study. None of these objects possessed meaning on their own. Their value came from the thoughtful intention behind their use. Ancient traditions remembered healing as a careful partnership between practical skill and reverence for life. Even ordinary objects became quiet reminders that gentle care often depended upon consistency, attention, and humility rather than extraordinary power. Asclepius' education reflected an ideal that continued for generations within his sanctuaries. Healing was approached as a peaceful craft requiring discipline, observation, and compassion. Students and caretakers inherited these values through repeated practice rather than hurried instruction. The calm atmosphere surrounding sacred places encouraged reflection before action. In this way, knowledge was preserved through gentle routines that honored both human experience and the enduring wisdom found within the natural world. By the time his learning reached maturity, Asclepius represented a vision of healing grounded in patience and quiet hope. His story invites thoughts not of struggle, but of careful restoration unfolding one peaceful moment after another. The gentle traditions surrounding his name remind us that wisdom often grows slowly, nourished by observation, kindness, and respect for the living world. Like a calm evening settling over distant mountains, the art of healing found its strength in stillness, balance, and enduring care. Among the quiet emblems connected with Asclepius, none became more enduring than the gentle serpent. In the ancient Greek imagination, the serpent was not simply a creature of fear. It carried older meanings of renewal, patience, and the quiet rhythm of life returning. By shedding its skin, it seemed to leave behind what had grown old without losing its essential nature. This peaceful cycle offered a fitting companion to a god whose purpose was healing rather than conquest. Within sacred places dedicated to Asclepius, the serpent came to represent steady restoration, reminding visitors that recovery often unfolded gradually, with calm persistence instead of sudden change. The familiar staff of Asclepius was an ordinary walking stick, shaped by daily travel rather than royal display. Around this simple staff rested a single serpent, creating a symbol that spoke through quiet balance instead of elaborate decoration. Unlike weapons carried by heroes or thunderbolts held by gods of the sky, this staff suggested careful movement from one village to another, bringing comfort wherever illness was found. Its humble appearance reflected the gentle work of healing, where patient attention often proved more valuable than displays of strength or power. Stories from the sanctuaries describe sacred serpents moving freely through the temple grounds. They were treated with respect rather than alarm, regarded as companions of the healing god. Their quiet presence blended naturally with shaded pathways, smooth stones, and peaceful gardens. Pilgrims entering these sacred spaces encountered an atmosphere where every living creature seemed to belong within an ordered world. The serpent became less a symbol of danger and more a reminder that nature itself possessed gentle patterns capable of supporting health, renewal, and careful restoration. Greek mythology often gave different meanings to the same creature depending upon its place within a story. Serpents could guard treasures, mark sacred places, or accompany divine beings. In the care of Asclepius, however, the serpent found one of its calmest roles. It represented wisdom that observed quietly before acting. Healing required careful attention, steady knowledge, and respect for the body's own rhythm. The image invited peaceful reflection rather than excitement, encouraging a slower understanding of health as something nurtured over time, instead of seized in a single dramatic moment. The shedding of a serpent's skin appeared almost miraculous to ancient observers. What looked worn and faded was gently left behind, while fresh scales emerged beneath. This natural event inspired thoughts of renewal that fit comfortably within the sacred world of Asclepius. Recovery from illness rarely erased the past, yet it allowed new strength to appear with patience. The familiar image of renewed skin quietly echoed the hope that the body and spirit could also move beyond weakness, step by measured step, under the peaceful care of divine guidance. The temples dedicated to Asclepius were carefully designed to encourage rest, reflection, and trust. Their architecture welcomed soft light, fresh air, and calm movement through open courtyards. Within these peaceful surroundings, symbols such as the sacred serpent became part of the larger experience of healing. Visitors were surrounded not by loud reminders of suffering, but by gentle images of harmony with the natural world. Every familiar symbol quietly reinforced the belief that health could return through balance, patience, and respectful attention to both body and mind. Asclepius himself was often imagined carrying the staff with calm confidence. His appearance reflected neither the armor of warriors nor the rich ornaments of kings. Instead, his symbols emphasized service, observation, and compassion. The serpent resting upon the staff completed this quiet image, joining practical travel with sacred meaning. Together, they suggested that healing was a journey requiring steady companionship rather than domination. The gentle simplicity of these symbols helped explain why they remained meaningful across many generations of Greek worshippers. As healing traditions continued through the ancient Mediterranean, the staff and serpent remained closely connected with physicians and places of care. Their meaning grew from mythology while extending into daily life. The image reminded communities that knowledge carried responsibility and kindness together. Although practices changed across centuries, the ancient symbol quietly endured because it expressed something universal. Healing was understood not only as correcting illness, but also as restoring harmony between people, nature, and the peaceful order believed to exist within the divine world. The sacred serpent also reflected careful observation of the natural world, something valued by those who served Asclepius. Plants, springs, fresh air, and changing seasons all contributed to the understanding of health. Rather than separating the divine from nature, Greek tradition often allowed them to exist together. The serpent quietly moving across warm stones became another reminder that wisdom could be discovered through attentive watching. Such calm observation encouraged thoughtful care instead of hurried action, allowing healing to unfold with gentle steadiness. Visitors who entered the healing sanctuaries often carried hopes shaped by uncertainty, yet the surroundings encouraged calm rather than fear. Sacred symbols were arranged to comfort the mind before any treatment began. The serpent resting peacefully within the sanctuary suggested continuity rather than disruption. Life continued through changing seasons, changing bodies, and changing fortunes. Even when recovery required time, the quiet symbolism reminded pilgrims that renewal belonged to the natural order, patiently unfolding according to rhythms older than any single human life. Unlike creatures associated with battle or triumph, the serpent of Asclepius rarely demanded attention through dramatic action. Its calm movements suited the gentle atmosphere surrounding the healing god. Ancient storytellers allowed quiet meanings to gather around this familiar animal, transforming ordinary observation into lasting symbolism. By remaining close to the earth, the serpent also reflected humility. It became an emblem not of domination over nature, but of respectful participation within it, where health emerged through careful balance and patient understanding. Many centuries later, the staff and serpent still appear wherever healing is honored. Their lasting presence connects modern observers with an ancient tradition that valued wisdom, patience, and compassionate care. While medicine has changed beyond anything imagined in classical Greece, the quiet symbolism remains recognizable. It continues to suggest that true healing involves more than skill alone. It also requires steadiness, thoughtful attention, and respect for the gradual processes through which life renews itself, just as the ancient serpent quietly inspired generations before. As evening settled across the sacred valleys of Greece, the symbols of Asclepius blended softly into the fading light. Marble columns grew pale, olive leaves stirred gently, and the quiet serpent remained an enduring sign of peaceful renewal. Nothing hurried within these sanctuaries. Every familiar image invited slower breathing, calmer thoughts, and trust in gentle restoration. The enduring harmony between staff, serpent, temple, and landscape formed a tranquil expression of the healing tradition, leaving behind an atmosphere of quiet reassurance that lingered long after sunset. Within the mythology of Asclepius, symbols never stood apart from the peaceful lives they touched. The serpent, the simple staff, and the sacred sanctuary together formed a language of quiet hope. They spoke not through loud declarations but through steady presence, inviting confidence in renewal shaped by time and care. Across generations, these gentle images remained among the most recognizable expressions of healing in the ancient world, offering a calm vision of restoration that rested naturally within the serene landscapes and sacred traditions of Greece. Across the Greek world, quiet sanctuaries dedicated to Asclepius welcomed travelers who sought comfort rather than haste. These sacred places were often built where fresh springs flowed, gentle hills rose, and healthy air drifted through groves of cypress and pine. The surroundings themselves encouraged stillness. Visitors left behind the noise of crowded marketplaces and entered spaces shaped by patience, ritual, and hope. Healing was understood as something that unfolded slowly, in harmony with the rhythms of nature and the favor of the gods. Every pathway invited calmer footsteps, and every breeze seemed to soften the burden carried into the sanctuary. One of the most celebrated sanctuaries stood at Epidaurus, where graceful buildings rested among peaceful hills. The site included temples, covered walkways, baths, gardens, and places for quiet reflection. Patients often remained there for days, allowing body and mind to settle before expecting any sign of recovery. The sanctuary did not promise sudden miracles. Instead, it offered an atmosphere where rest became an honored part of healing. The steady sounds of birds, leaves, and flowing water blended into a gentle rhythm that encouraged calm breathing and unhurried thoughts. Before entering the sacred spaces, visitors usually prepared themselves through simple acts of purification. They washed with clean water, offered prayers, and approached the sanctuary with respect. These rituals marked a quiet transition from ordinary life into a place devoted to balance and restoration. Purification was not merely about physical cleanliness. It also symbolized setting aside worry, anger, and distraction for a little while. Step by careful step, each person entered an environment where peace was considered an important companion to medicine. Offerings expressed gratitude and hope without demanding immediate rewards. Some visitors brought small cakes, fragrant incense, or carefully crafted figures representing the part of the body that troubled them. These gifts rested quietly within the sanctuary as symbols of trust rather than payment. The atmosphere remained gentle and respectful, reminding everyone that healing belonged to a larger order guided by divine wisdom, natural processes, and patient care. Even the smallest offering reflected a peaceful desire for harmony rather than urgency. Within these sacred grounds, physicians, attendants, and priests each contributed to the experience of healing. Ancient Greek medicine did not always separate practical treatment from religious devotion. Herbal remedies, careful observation, clean surroundings, and sacred ritual could exist together without conflict. Visitors found reassurance in this balanced approach. The sanctuary became a place where knowledge and reverence quietly supported one another, allowing recovery to unfold without forcing every answer into a single path. Gardens filled with familiar herbs offered gentle reminders of nature's quiet generosity. Fragrant plants such as thyme, sage, and bay grew beneath the warm Mediterranean sun, releasing subtle scents into the air. Although ancient treatments varied from place to place, many healing plants were valued for generations. Walking slowly among these gardens became a soothing experience in itself. Every leaf stirred softly in the breeze, encouraging visitors to notice simple beauty while setting anxious thoughts aside. Fresh water held an honored place within the sanctuaries. Springs, fountains, and carefully maintained baths reflected the belief that cleanliness supported health. Gentle washing refreshed tired travelers after long journeys over dusty roads. Flowing water also carried symbolic meaning, suggesting renewal and steady movement rather than stagnation. The quiet sound of water passing over smooth stone added another layer of calm to the sanctuary, becoming part of the peaceful rhythm that surrounded each visitor throughout the day. As daylight softened toward evening, the sanctuary often became even quieter. Shadows lengthened across white stone, birds settled into the trees, and cooler air drifted through the columns. Visitors gradually prepared for sacred sleep, believing that restful dreams might carry guidance connected with Asclepius. The transition from day into night happened gently, without urgency. Nature itself seemed to encourage slower breathing, quieter voices, and peaceful expectation beneath the broad Greek sky. Many patients spent the night inside a special building known as the Abaton, a sacred sleeping hall reserved for incubation. Here they rested in silence, trusting that dreams might reveal comfort or healing under the protection of Asclepius. Ancient accounts describe these dreams as meaningful experiences rather than ordinary sleep. Whether symbolic or direct, they were approached with thoughtful attention. Morning brought quiet conversations about what had been seen during the night and how it might guide further care. The sacred serpent associated with Asclepius carried rich symbolic meaning throughout his sanctuaries. Far from representing danger alone, the serpent reflected renewal, because it shed its skin and seemed continually refreshed. Ancient visitors recognized this natural cycle as an image of restoration and continuing life. Artistic representations of the serpent appeared on staffs, carvings, and sacred objects, gently reminding those who rested there that change often arrived through gradual transformation rather than sudden force. Records left by grateful visitors described recoveries they believed had taken place within these sacred sanctuaries. Stone inscriptions preserved stories of illnesses relieved and strength regained after periods of rest, treatment, and meaningful dreams. While modern medicine understands disease differently, these ancient inscriptions reveal the importance people placed on hope, careful observation, and community memory. Each carved stone quietly celebrated gratitude, allowing future visitors to read calm reminders that healing had long been sought within these peaceful places. The architecture itself encouraged tranquility. Long colonnades created cool, shaded paths where visitors could walk without hurry. Open courtyards welcomed sunlight, while surrounding hills offered shelter from harsh winds. Every building appeared carefully placed within the landscape rather than imposed upon it. Marble reflected soft light throughout the day, and the harmony between nature and construction gave the sanctuary a balanced character. Even without speaking, the buildings seemed to invite patience and quiet confidence. Pilgrims eventually departed the sanctuary carrying memories of calm days spent among sacred groves and quiet stone buildings. Some believed themselves fully restored, while others simply returned home strengthened by peaceful surroundings and renewed hope. Their journeys became part of a long tradition connecting generations through shared trust in Asclepius. The sanctuaries remain places where gentle care, respectful ritual, and natural beauty came together in a lasting expression of ancient Greek ideas about healing. Today, the ruins of these sanctuaries still rest beneath open skies, where columns stand among grasses and wildflowers. Though centuries have passed, the quiet arrangement of temple, hillside, and trees continues to suggest the same atmosphere that once welcomed weary travelers. Wind moves softly through the landscape, carrying no urgency. The memory of peaceful healing remains woven into the stones themselves, offering a lasting image of gentle care, sacred rest, and the enduring hope that calm places can help restore both body and spirit. As daylight faded beyond the hills, the sanctuaries of Asclepius became especially quiet. Pilgrims who had purified themselves during the day prepared for the gentle practice known as incubation. They entered the sacred sleeping hall with calm minds, believing that restful sleep allowed the healing presence of the god to draw near. Ancient writers describe these nights as peaceful rather than dramatic. Silence, clean surroundings, prayer, and patient expectation formed the rhythm of the evening. The goal was not to force a miracle, but to rest within a sacred place where body, mind, and spirit could settle into harmony beneath the soft darkness. Before lying down, visitors often washed in clear spring water and offered simple gifts upon the altar. A small cake, fragrant incense, or a modest dedication expressed gratitude rather than wealth. Purification was considered an important beginning because healing was understood as a return to balance. The cool evening air drifted through stone colonnades while lamps burned gently along quiet pathways. Every careful action encouraged stillness. By the time sleep approached, the busy concerns of ordinary life had softened, replaced by the peaceful rhythm of sacred ritual and the comforting order of the sanctuary itself. Within the sleeping chamber, there was little noise beyond the distant breeze and the occasional call of a night bird. Ancient traditions held that Asclepius might appear within dreams, offering guidance suited to each person. Sometimes he was described as speaking gentle words. At other times, he simply touched the dreamer or directed attention toward a remedy. These accounts reflected a belief that wisdom could arrive quietly during restful sleep. Dreams became a peaceful meeting place where divine care and human hope could share the same calm silence until morning returned. Sacred snakes, long associated with renewal because they shed their skin, belonged to many healing sanctuaries devoted to Asclepius. Ancient visitors regarded them with respect rather than fear, seeing them as symbols of restoration and continuous life. Stories tell of these harmless temple snakes moving peacefully through the sacred grounds. Their quiet presence reminded pilgrims that nature itself carried lessons about patience, recovery, and gradual change. Nothing hurried their movement. Like healing itself, every slow motion suggested that renewal often unfolds gently, one calm moment after another. Morning brought thoughtful reflection rather than immediate celebration. Priests listened carefully as dreamers described the images they remembered. Some dreams suggested practical treatments already familiar within Greek medicine, while others carried symbolic meaning that encouraged changes in daily life or religious devotion. The interpretation combined careful observation with sacred tradition. Healing was rarely imagined as separate from ordinary living. Food, rest, exercise, cleanliness, and reverence all belonged to the same peaceful path, woven together like gentle threads into a balanced and hopeful life. The sanctuaries themselves encouraged quiet recovery. Broad courtyards opened toward fresh air, trees offered welcome shade, and nearby springs provided cool water throughout the seasons. Beautiful surroundings were not considered a luxury, but part of healing itself. Nature and sacred architecture worked together to calm anxious minds. Walking slowly beneath columns or listening to leaves move in the breeze became small acts of restoration. Even today, the peaceful remains of these places still suggest the careful attention ancient builders gave to rest and tranquility. Incense drifted upward in thin, graceful lines, carrying pleasant fragrances through the sanctuary. Laurel, pine, and other aromatic plants were familiar companions to religious ceremony across ancient Greece. Their scents gently marked the transition from ordinary concerns into sacred space. As evening settled over the hills, the air itself seemed quieter. The soft fragrance mingled with cool stone and fresh earth after sunset, creating an atmosphere where slow breathing came naturally. Every peaceful detail encouraged trust that healing could unfold without haste. The staff of Asclepius, entwined by a single serpent, became one of the enduring symbols of healing in the ancient world. Unlike emblems of victory or power, this simple wooden staff suggested the steady journey of a traveler and the patient support offered during recovery. The serpent curling around it represented renewal through natural cycles. Together they formed an image of balanced care rather than sudden conquest. Their quiet symbolism has continued across centuries, reminding many cultures that healing often grows through patience, wisdom, and gentle persistence. Music also had a peaceful place within many sacred traditions of Greece. Soft melodies from the lyre could accompany worship or quiet reflection, helping the mind settle before sleep. While surviving accounts vary from sanctuary to sanctuary, harmony itself was widely valued as an expression of order in both nature and human life. Gentle sound, like calm conversation or flowing water, encouraged inward balance. The evening became not a performance but a quiet offering, inviting restful thoughts to arrive without effort. Many visitors remained at the sanctuary for more than a single night. Recovery was understood as a gradual process, requiring patience, observation, and care. Rest, simple meals, walking, bathing and prayer formed a peaceful rhythm repeated day after day. Ancient healing did not always separate physical health from emotional calm or spiritual devotion. Each quiet practice supported the others. In this gentle pattern of living, time itself became part of the remedy, moving slowly beneath the steady course of the sun and stars. Some sanctuaries displayed inscriptions describing grateful visitors who believed they had recovered through the care of Asclepius. These stone records served both as offerings and as encouragement for future pilgrims. They spoke in calm voices across generations, preserving memories of hope rather than triumph. Whether describing restored sight, eased pain, or renewed strength, the inscriptions reflected gratitude for healing received within sacred space. The carved letters rested quietly beneath open skies, enduring through changing seasons with gentle dignity. Night after night, the stars crossed the Greek sky above the sleeping halls. Their slow movement reminded ancient observers of the steady order believed to shape both heaven and earth. Beneath those familiar constellations, pilgrims rested in confidence that nature followed dependable rhythms. Sleep became another expression of that larger harmony. Just as darkness yielded peacefully to dawn, the body too was trusted to seek its own balance when surrounded by calm, care, and sacred hope. The gentle traditions surrounding Asclepius joined practical care with sacred imagination. Clean water, thoughtful observation, healthy habits, and meaningful dreams existed together without conflict in many ancient minds. Rather than choosing between earthly knowledge and divine blessing, the sanctuary welcomed both. Physicians and priests could each have their place within the larger search for well-being. This peaceful balance became one reason the healing sanctuaries remained respected across many generations of the Greek world. As the final lamps dimmed and silence settled once more across the sanctuary, every stone seemed to hold the memory of quiet nights devoted to healing. The gentle presence of Asclepius endured through stories, symbols, and peaceful ritual, inviting patience rather than urgency. In these sacred places, sleep was welcomed as a companion of renewal, and dreams became soft pathways toward comfort. The ancient temples rested beneath the stars, calm and unhurried, carrying their timeless atmosphere into the gentle stillness of memory. Asclepius was remembered not as a conqueror but as a careful healer whose presence brought quiet confidence. Ancient storytellers described him moving through sacred places with patience, carrying knowledge that joined careful observation with reverence for the gods. His gift was never hurried. Each remedy reflected balance, gentle attention, and respect for the natural order. Herbs, clean water, rest, and thoughtful care all belonged within his peaceful practice. In many traditions, healing unfolded slowly, allowing both body and spirit to settle into harmony. His name came to represent calm restoration rather than dramatic triumph, inviting people to believe that steady care could slowly renew strength. The staff carried by Asclepius became one of the enduring symbols of healing. Around the simple wooden staff rested a single serpent, an animal associated in Greek thought with renewal because it shed its old skin. The image spoke of gentle cycles rather than sudden miracles. It suggested that recovery often followed the patient rhythm of nature itself. The staff was not a weapon, but a companion for long walks between sanctuaries and quiet villages. Together, the staff and serpent expressed wisdom, endurance, and careful attention to life's changing seasons. Asclepius was said to belong to a remarkable family, whose members each reflected a different aspect of well-being. Their stories offered a graceful reminder that health was never understood as one single act. Instead, many gentle qualities worked together. Cleanliness, recovery, soothing relief, and lasting vitality each had their own place within sacred tradition. Rather than competing, these divine figures complemented one another, forming a quiet circle of care. Their shared presence encouraged thoughtful balance, where every small improvement became part of a larger harmony that unfolded over time. Among the daughters of Asclepius, Hygieia became closely associated with health preserved through daily balance. Her name later inspired the modern word hygiene, though her ancient role reached beyond simple cleanliness. She represented habits that quietly protected life before illness appeared. Ancient worship honored this steady guardianship, recognizing that peaceful routines could be as valuable as powerful remedies. In her gentle example, ordinary acts gained sacred meaning. Careful living, moderation, and respect for both body and environment became expressions of lasting harmony rather than strict obligation. Another daughter, Panacea, came to symbolize remedies capable of easing suffering. Over centuries, her name inspired the idea of a universal cure, although Greek tradition treated healing with greater subtlety. She represented hope carried within medicine itself, reminding worshippers that careful treatment deserved trust and patience. Rather than promising effortless perfection, her presence encouraged quiet perseverance through illness. Ancient visitors could imagine her gentle blessing resting upon herbs, prepared mixtures, and thoughtful physicians who approached every patient with calm respect and measured attention. The sons of Asclepius also entered Greek tradition as skilled healers. Chiron and Podalirius appeared in heroic stories as physicians whose knowledge traveled even into times of war. Yet their fame rested less upon battle than upon careful treatment of wounds and thoughtful observation of the injured. Their presence reminded listeners that compassion could exist even where hardship surrounded daily life. Healing required patience, knowledge, and steady hands guided by experience. Their quiet skill reflected the enduring influence of their father's peaceful teachings. Sacred temples dedicated to Asclepius welcomed those seeking rest as much as treatment. Visitors often prepared themselves with ritual cleansing, simple offerings, and peaceful reflection before entering the sanctuary. The atmosphere encouraged silence instead of urgency. Gentle breezes moved through stone colonnades while birds settled among nearby trees. Every part of the sanctuary invited slower breathing and quieter thoughts. In such surroundings, healing became more than medicine alone. The place itself offered comfort, creating space where hope could grow with calm steadiness. One of the most distinctive practices at these sanctuaries involved sacred sleep, sometimes called incubation. After preparation, visitors rested within designated spaces, hoping for meaningful dreams connected to healing. Ancient tradition held that Asclepius might appear in these peaceful visions or guide recovery through symbolic images. Priests later helped interpret the dreams with care. Whether understood as divine messages or thoughtful reflection, the quiet practice encouraged restful contemplation. Sleep itself became part of the healing journey, honored as a gentle companion rather than simple inactivity. The landscapes surrounding many healing sanctuaries contributed to their peaceful reputation. Temples often stood among hills, forests, or clear springs where natural sounds softened the mind. Flowing water, rustling leaves, and open skies created an atmosphere of gentle balance. Ancient visitors experienced these places as carefully chosen settings where nature and devotion worked together. Recovery was imagined not as a struggle against the world, but as a gradual return to its quiet rhythms. The calm environment became another silent partner in every hopeful visit. Offerings left at the sanctuaries reflected gratitude more than grandeur. Small objects, carved tablets, or simple dedications expressed thanks for comfort already received or hoped for in the future. Many inscriptions spoke softly of restored health, renewed movement, or peaceful sleep. These quiet records formed a gentle archive of human resilience across generations. They celebrated ordinary moments made precious by recovery. Each offering rested within the sanctuary as a calm reminder that healing often unfolded through many patient steps rather than sudden transformation. Serpents sometimes lived within the sacred grounds of Asclepius, and ancient worshippers regarded them with reverence rather than fear. Their silent movements suggested renewal and continuity, fitting companions for places devoted to recovery. Stories describe these sacred animals moving peacefully through temple precincts as accepted residents of the sanctuary. Their presence reflected the natural world joining sacred tradition. Without haste or disturbance, they became living symbols of quiet change, reminding visitors that growth often appears gently, one calm season following another. The reputation of Asclepius spread across the Greek world, and sanctuaries dedicated to him welcomed travelers from distant regions. Though each location possessed its own customs, the shared purpose remained remarkably consistent. People arrived seeking comfort, thoughtful guidance, and peaceful rest. Priests, physicians, and attendants worked within traditions that valued observation alongside devotion. The atmosphere emphasized patience instead of haste. Across changing generations, these sacred places preserved the belief that healing flourished best where calm minds, careful knowledge, and reverence quietly met. Even after centuries passed, the memory of Asclepius continued to inspire ideas about compassionate care. His stories gently united practical knowledge with spiritual reflection, suggesting that both belonged within the search for well-being. The peaceful rhythm of his myths still invites quiet contemplation today. Rather than celebrating endless struggle, they honor restoration, patience, and thoughtful attention to life's delicate balance. In that enduring image of the healer carrying his simple staff beneath open skies, ancient Greece leaves behind a calm vision of hope, sustained through gentle care. As evening settled over the sacred hills, the temples of Asclepius seemed to rest alongside the people who visited them. Stone columns caught the fading light, while quiet winds moved through olive branches with unhurried grace. The stories of the healer and his family asked for no loud display. Instead, they offered the comforting thought that health could be nurtured through patience, wisdom, restful sleep, and respectful care. In that gentle tradition, every calm breath, every peaceful dream, and every steady morning became part of an enduring path toward harmony. As the generations passed, the gentle reputation of Asclepius traveled far beyond the valleys where his earliest sanctuaries stood. Sailors carried quiet stories across the blue Aegean Sea, while travelers repeated accounts of peaceful temples devoted to rest, careful observation, and hope. Instead of spreading through conquest, the cult of healing grew through gratitude. Families remembered recoveries and dedicated simple offerings in thanks. In village after village, people began to see Asclepius not only as a divine healer, but also as a calm companion during illness, encouraging patience, reflection, and trust in the slow rhythms of both nature and the human body. Each sanctuary devoted to Asclepius shared familiar traditions while adapting gently to its own landscape. Some rested among quiet hills shaded by cypress trees, while others stood near springs whose clear waters reflected the changing light. Pilgrims recognized these sacred places by their peaceful atmosphere rather than by grand displays of power. Stone pathways, simple altars, and orderly courtyards invited calm movement instead of haste. The temples became places where body, mind, and spirit were allowed to settle together, reflecting an understanding that healing often unfolded gradually, one restful day after another. Among the most respected healing centers was the sanctuary at Epidaurus, whose quiet setting became known throughout the Greek world. Visitors arrived from distant islands and mainland cities, bringing small gifts and personal prayers rather than displays of wealth. The sanctuary combined sacred devotion with practical care, creating an environment where rest itself became part of the healing experience. Gentle breezes moved through groves of trees, birds sang among the branches, and carefully maintained buildings offered an atmosphere that encouraged stillness, making the entire landscape feel like an extension of the healing tradition. The priests serving Asclepius acted as careful guardians of the sacred spaces rather than miracle workers seeking admiration. They welcomed visitors, maintained rituals, and observed long-established customs passed down through generations. Cleanliness, order, and thoughtful preparation shaped daily life within the sanctuary. Patients often followed gentle routines before seeking divine guidance, allowing both body and mind to become quiet. These practices reflected an understanding that healing required balance, patience, and respectful cooperation between human effort and divine blessing, rather than sudden displays of extraordinary power. Sacred springs became closely connected with the growing cult because flowing water symbolized renewal and gentle cleansing. Visitors washed before entering important areas of the sanctuary, leaving behind the dust of long journeys. The cool water provided comfort after difficult travel and marked the beginning of a more peaceful rhythm. Ancient Greeks often viewed fresh springs as gifts from the earth itself, quietly nourishing both plants and people. Within the healing sanctuaries, these waters formed part of an environment carefully designed to encourage calm reflection and gradual restoration. As healing sanctuaries appeared in more regions, local communities added their own traditions while preserving the central reverence for Asclepius. Different dialects were spoken, familiar festivals varied, and surrounding landscapes changed from rocky coasts to fertile plains. Yet visitors could still recognize the peaceful character shared by these sacred places. Everywhere, the emphasis remained on careful preparation, quiet sleep, thoughtful ritual, and gratitude after recovery. This gentle consistency allowed the cult to unite distant parts of Greece without erasing the unique character of each individual sanctuary. Offerings left within the sanctuaries reflected sincere appreciation more than material value. Small statues, carved inscriptions, pottery, and simple objects were dedicated by those who believed they had received healing or comfort. These gifts quietly accumulated over many years, forming lasting records of personal hope and gratitude. Rather than celebrating dramatic victories, the offerings honored ordinary moments of recovery, renewed strength, peaceful sleep, eased pain, and the return of daily life. Together, they created a gentle atmosphere filled with memories of thankfulness shared across generations. The famous staff entwined by a single serpent gradually became one of the enduring symbols associated with Asclepius. In Greek tradition, the serpent represented renewal because it shed its old skin and emerged refreshed. Within the healing sanctuaries, this symbol reminded visitors that recovery often involved gradual transformation rather than sudden change. The staff itself suggested steady support during difficult moments, while the calm serpent reflected the quiet cycles of nature. Together, they formed an image that communicated hope with remarkable simplicity and lasting dignity. Although every sanctuary honored the same divine healer, no two places were exactly alike. Mountain sanctuaries offered cool air and wide views across valleys, while coastal temples welcomed the gentle sound of waves arriving on distant shores. Local stone gave each building its own appearance, and surrounding plants reflected the climate of each region. Even so, visitors consistently described the same feeling of peaceful order. The landscape itself seemed to participate in the healing tradition, inviting quiet breathing, slow walking, and restful contemplation beneath the open sky. Asclepius eventually came to be honored across much of the Greek world, extending from mainland cities to islands connected by regular sea routes. Merchants, sailors, scholars, and pilgrims all contributed to this quiet exchange of traditions. Unlike stories carried by armies, these journeys spread practices centered on compassion and restoration. The sanctuaries formed a peaceful network linked by shared rituals, sacred symbols, and enduring respect for careful healing. Over time, the reputation of these temples became woven into the broader cultural life of ancient Greece. The influence of the healing sanctuaries reached beyond religious devotion and quietly encouraged observation of the natural world. Careful attention to sleep, diet, exercise, clean surroundings, and changing symptoms became part of daily practice in many temples. While divine guidance remained central, practical care was never ignored. This harmonious balance reflected an ancient understanding that the gifts of the gods often worked alongside thoughtful human effort. Such ideas helped shape traditions that would continue influencing approaches to healing for many centuries afterward. Even after political changes reshaped the Greek world, many sanctuaries dedicated to Asclepius continued to welcome those seeking comfort. Their enduring presence reflected more than architectural beauty. They preserved a vision of healing rooted in patience, gentle ritual, and quiet hope. Stone columns weathered the passing seasons, trees matured above familiar pathways, and springs continued to flow with steady rhythm. Visitors entering these sacred spaces stepped into traditions that had been carefully maintained across generations, offering a sense of continuity amid an ever-changing world. The peaceful reputation of Asclepius gradually reached neighboring cultures as well, where elements of the healing tradition were respectfully adapted over time. Although customs evolved, the central image remained remarkably consistent: a divine figure associated with wisdom, restoration, and compassionate care rather than force. The enduring appeal of this tradition rested in its quiet confidence that healing could emerge through patience, reverence, and attentive living. Across centuries, the name of Asclepius continued to evoke images of calm sanctuaries, where hope was nurtured with gentle persistence. Today, the scattered remains of these ancient sanctuaries still rest among hills, forests, and quiet valleys. Broken columns, worn pathways, and weathered stones preserve the memory of places where countless people once sought peaceful restoration. Though the voices of the pilgrims have long faded, the landscapes remain remarkably serene. The gentle story of Asclepius continues to remind us that healing was imagined not as a struggle against nature, but as a gradual return to harmony. In that enduring vision, the temples still seem to breathe with calm and timeless silence. Long after the sacred fires of many ancient sanctuaries had faded, the memory of Asclepius continued to rest gently within the traditions of healing. His story remained less a tale of conquest than of careful attention, patient recovery, and quiet hope. Across generations, physicians remembered him not simply as a divine figure, but as a symbol of thoughtful care offered without haste. His presence lingered in peaceful recollection, where the calm rhythm of observation and compassion mattered as much as any remedy. Even as kingdoms changed and languages evolved, the gentle spirit associated with Asclepius remained remarkably enduring. Many sanctuaries dedicated to Asclepius gradually became silent places touched by weather, seasons, and passing centuries. Marble columns softened beneath rain and sunlight, while grasses found gentle paths between ancient stones. Yet these quiet ruins carried more than age. They preserved the memory of countless peaceful visits, careful prayers, restful sleep, and hopeful awakenings. Travelers who encountered these places often sensed a lingering atmosphere of serenity rather than grandeur. The calm landscapes surrounding the temples became part of their lasting story, allowing nature itself to guard the memory of sacred healing. Among the enduring symbols linked with Asclepius, none became more recognizable than the wooden staff around which a single serpent quietly coils. In Greek tradition, the serpent suggested renewal through the shedding of old skin, while the humble staff reflected the steady journey of those seeking health. Together, they formed a peaceful emblem rather than a display of power. Across many generations, this simple image continued to remind physicians and scholars that healing often unfolds gradually, guided by patience, wisdom, and careful observation instead of sudden transformation. The family of Asclepius also remained woven into the memory of ancient medicine. His daughters, especially Hygieia and Panacea, represented different aspects of well-being that complemented his gentle role. Their presence reflected the understanding that health was not only the treatment of illness, but also the preservation of balance, cleanliness, and lasting care. Together they formed a quiet vision of harmony rather than conflict. Their stories continue to inspire peaceful reflection on the many ways people nurture both body and spirit throughout the changing seasons of life. As centuries passed, physicians in many regions looked back toward the traditions associated with Asclepius with quiet respect. His name appeared in writings, dedications, and places where learning was carefully preserved. While medical knowledge continued to develop through observation and experience, the ideal of compassionate care remained closely connected with his memory. Healing was understood as a thoughtful partnership between knowledge, patience, and kindness. In this gentle way, the figure of Asclepius remained present even where his temples no longer welcomed nightly visitors seeking sacred dreams. The peaceful atmosphere of incubation temples left an influence that extended beyond their original purpose. The practice of creating spaces devoted to rest, reflection, and recovery echoed through later traditions in different forms. Calm surroundings, careful listening, and confidence in gradual healing remained deeply valued. Although beliefs changed over time, the quiet understanding that recovery flourishes in peaceful conditions continued to endure. The legacy of Asclepius became not only a memory of divine mythology, but also a lasting reminder of the gentle environment that healing often requires. Ancient writers preserved many accounts connected with Asclepius, recording stories of recoveries, offerings, and grateful remembrance. Some inscriptions described illnesses overcome after nights spent within sacred sanctuaries. Others simply honored the god with expressions of thanks. Whether understood as sacred testimony or treasured tradition, these quiet records allowed future generations to glimpse the hopes of ordinary people. Their words reflected lives marked by vulnerability and gratitude, reminding readers that the search for comfort and restoration has always been part of the human experience. Even after the rise of new beliefs throughout the Mediterranean world, the memory of Asclepius was not entirely forgotten. Scholars preserved his stories as part of Greece's rich cultural heritage, while artists continued to depict his calm figure carrying the familiar staff. His mythology gradually became part of history as well as legend. Though the sacred rituals themselves faded, the peaceful character associated with healing remained recognizable. His quiet presence continued to inspire reflection on compassion, wisdom, and the enduring hope found within gentle care. Today, visitors who walk among the remains of ancient healing sanctuaries often encounter remarkable stillness. The sounds are no longer those of pilgrims or temple attendants, but of birds, wind, and distant leaves moving softly through olive branches. These places invite slow contemplation rather than excitement. The worn stones quietly suggest countless moments of waiting, sleeping, recovering, and giving thanks. Without speaking, the landscape itself continues to express the calm purpose that once guided every peaceful evening within the sacred precincts of Asclepius. The legacy of Asclepius also survives through the enduring respect shown toward medicine as both knowledge and service. Ancient myths described divine guidance, while later generations emphasized careful study and practical skill. These paths gradually joined in a shared appreciation for thoughtful care offered with humility. The figure of Asclepius came to represent not miraculous certainty, but steady dedication to easing suffering whenever possible. That quiet ideal has remained meaningful across centuries, gently connecting mythology with the continuing work of compassionate healing. Within Greek mythology, Asclepius occupies a rare place among the gods and heroic figures. His stories are marked less by battles or distant voyages than by moments of relief, recovery, and peaceful restoration. This gentle character gives his mythology a uniquely tranquil quality. Rather than celebrating triumph through force, his tradition honors patience, attentive care, and respect for life's delicate balance. His enduring memory invites quiet appreciation for the simple acts that help preserve health and bring comfort during difficult seasons. As evening settles over imagined landscapes of ancient Greece, it becomes easy to picture the quiet rhythm once surrounding the sanctuaries of Asclepius. Lamps would have burned softly, prayers spoken gently, and hopeful sleepers rested beneath the protection of the healing god. Though those nights belong to history, their peaceful atmosphere continues to live within the stories passed from generation to generation. The mythology preserves not only remarkable events, but also the comforting silence that surrounded the search for restoration. Across the long passage of time, myths often change as they are retold, yet the essence of Asclepius remains remarkably consistent. He continues to embody calm wisdom, measured care, and respect for the natural processes of healing. His enduring presence within classical tradition reflects values that never depend upon noise or spectacle. Instead, his story unfolds with quiet dignity, inviting gentle reflection on patience, compassion, and the steady hope that accompanies every sincere effort to restore balance and well-being. The story of Asclepius finally settles into peaceful silence, like evening light resting across old marble and distant hills. His temples, symbols, and traditions remain gentle echoes from the ancient world, carrying memories of sacred dreams and compassionate healing. In that lasting quiet, mythology offers something deeply restful, the image of care unfolding patiently, without hurry, beneath the steady rhythm of nature. The legacy of Asclepius endures not through thunder or conquest, but through enduring serenity, thoughtful kindness, and the timeless hope of renewal.